Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here. In this video we're talking about PlayStation Vita, Nintendo Switch, RetroArch, and more. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off here talking about Nintendo Switch emulation on PC with Ryujinx, and Ryujinx just released their progress report for February. I'll leave a link to it in the description below, and I do recommend checking it out since we're just going over it at a high level and there's a ton of information here. Now, February was a pretty big month for Ryujinx, both in terms of emulator progress and also in terms of Patreon goals. They met their $2,000 a month Patreon goal for texture packs and replacement capabilities. At a high level here, they say this will facilitate the replacement of in-game graphics textures, which enables custom texture enhancements, alternate controller buttons, graphics, and more. They do say, though, that this goal will have to be maintained for at least another month for work to get started on it. There was a whole bunch of GPU work done this month, and they turned Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Nope into Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. So this is the before, just a nice black screen, and well, this is after looking a lot better. And if that's not good enough for you, well, here is even after that. So it appears they got rid of the pseudo-vertical CRT graphics. For Breath of the Wild, there was a very interesting bug they called Bike Nuke, and this is what it looks like. And they ended up fixing it due to a couple of indie games. So this one here is void, and this is the before and this is after. And here is, well, you can't read it because it's just pure white, but here's the longest 5 minutes after. And solving both of these graphical issues helped them fix Breath of the Wild. Very interesting. In terms of GPUs, it seems like AMD is still providing quite a bit of a headache for Ryujinx developers, but Nvidia is doing a lot better. And interestingly enough, they also mentioned Snapdragon Adreno GPUs. And this is one of the many reasons why I love open source, because I mean, with these Ryujinx improvements, an emulator like Skyline could benefit. But moving on from that and back to the progress report, and Ryujinx now offers two anti-aliasing techniques, FXAA and SMAA. FXAA stands for Subscribe to Mr. Sujano, or Fast Approximate Anti-Aliasing. And SMAA, interestingly enough, also stands for Subscribe to Mr. Sujano, or Subpixel Morphological Anti-Aliasing. So here's a quick example of anti-aliasing. Both images right now have no anti-aliasing. This is FXAA, and this is SMAA. You can see that SMAA is a little bit smoother. And if you're still kind of puzzled, here's a direct comparison between FXAA and SMAA. And it's pretty easy to tell, at least if you zoom in, that SMAA is a little bit smoother, but both of them are much smoother than no anti-aliasing. And if you wanted to have even more fun, on the progress report, they've also got some sliders to show you the difference between different scaling filters. For example, between bilinear and nearest neighbor, bilinear and FSR, and nearest neighbor and FSR. And on top of that, they've also got a real nice chart here to show you when you should use certain filters. Now, what I went over was just a snippet of what Ryujinx did this month. I mean, they also had some bug fixes and improvements, and we've covered a lot of those in daily videos. Again, check out this progress report. I'll leave it in the description below. It's well written and very interesting. Ryujinx had an awesome month, and I can't wait to see what happens in March, or April. This year is flying by. But moving on from that, we're talking about RetroArch, and we talked about this core the other day, but now it's on Steam. Dirk Simple, which is for FMV and Laserdisc games. If you are using RetroArch on Steam, there's a brand new update here, which is version 1.15.0, which we also talked about the other day. If you are using RetroArch, I still do recommend picking up the standalone version, but the Steam option's there if you want. And next up, we're talking about PlayStation Vita emulation on Android with Vita3k, and this really isn't much of an update, but I keep getting asked about it. And I'm asked about it multiple times every single day. When's the next Vita3k update? At the time of filming, the latest version of Vita3k on Android is Release 3, which was released back at the beginning of February, well, a couple weeks into February. In terms of the next release, just be patient. They are working on Release 4, but it might take some time. It might release tomorrow. It might release in a couple of weeks. It might release in a month. There's no real way of telling here, so just be patient and rest assured they are working on it. And speaking about being contacted over and over and over again, next up we're talking about AetherSX2, but Purple SX2. Purple SX2 is an AetherSX2 fork of sorts. What it is at a very high level is an old version of AetherSX2 that was partially open source. It's still missing the very important recompilers. And Mr. Purple here is doing their best to reverse engineer it, but they're not promising anything, and I'm really not expecting anything. As cool as this is really just an experimental project, and don't expect it to be the next version of AetherSX2. Talrith never open sourced the recompilers, which are the magic stuff that make AetherSX2 AetherSX2. And I highly doubt he will ever open source those. I mean, that's his bread and butter. So for right now, and also for the foreseeable future, the best PlayStation 2 emulator on Android remains as AetherSX2. If you wanted to pick up the ad-free version, you can pick it up right from the AetherSX2 Discord. If you wanted to pick up the ad version of it, the latest ad version of it, you can pick it up right from the Google Play Store or pick it up from the AetherSX2 website. They have an alpha build here, 4248, which we've talked about in previous videos. This one might have some performance improvements and also some performance regressions. And in terms of what's in there besides ads, I haven't seen anything yet. In terms of performance, I haven't really seen anything bad just yet. This emulator is closed source. We don't know what Talrith is doing with it. And Talrith, for lack of better words here, appears to have been a little bit disgruntled about the Android community. So I'm not quite sure what's going on. There are some rumors about it installing viruses and stuff on your phones, and I really don't think those rumors are true. From my understanding here and from what I've seen, it just seems like there's some ads, and that's really about it. So use this version at your own risk. If you want the arguably safe version, head to the AetherSX2 Discord. And speaking about versions, next up we're talking about Nintendo GameCube and Wii emulation on Android with Dolphin. And this one is a little bit interesting. First and foremost, if you are looking for the latest and greatest version of Dolphin on Android, head to dolphin-emu.org and click on download. Once you're here, scroll down to where you see development versions and pick up the latest one on Android. At the time of filming, it's version 5.0-18995. You can see here the Dolphin team is working very hard on improving the Android version, and in my opinion, the development version is probably the way to go in terms of performance. However, if you're one of those people who prefer to fork as opposed to the original, like Dolphin MMJ or Dolphin MMJR or Dolphin MMJR3 or the other Dolphin MMJR2, well, none of those forks are currently being actively developed. But there is a brand new fork here called Dolphin MMJR3. And this one is being worked on by Lumens, who is working on the new version of Dolphin MMJR2. To be very clear, Lumens says MMJR3 is an Android-only Dolphin fork for porting the MMJR and MMJR2 experience on top of the latest Dolphin development builds. This fork is only for changes that I personally want. This is for personal and friend use only. Feel free to use it if you really want to. For now, there will be no public releases of this project, and this fork has no intentions of stealing credit from the Dolphin developers. If you wish to use their latest development builds instead, please do. So to reiterate here and really stamp down my point, if you're looking for the best version of Dolphin on Android, even if you used a fork before, head to dolphin-emu.org and click on download, scroll down to development versions, and pick up the latest Android development version. The Dolphin development team has been working tirelessly on this stuff, and they've made some major improvements. And last up here, we're talking about the Retroid Pocket Flip, and I've got some more details about this brand new handheld that hasn't released just yet. The joysticks on this one are sliders, and they're Hall sliders, Hall effect. They also have L3 and R3 buttons built into them, which I find very interesting. As for the USB-C port on the top of this, there is no video out from that. You will have to use the mini HDMI connector. The tech specs on the Retroid Pocket Flip are pretty much the exact same as on the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus. It's the same CPU, GPU, same storage, same RAM, and even same screen. But there are a couple of differences here. The battery on the Pocket Flip is 500 milliamp hours bigger, and it's got active cooling as opposed to passive cooling, so it's got a fan in it as opposed to nothing. As for the prices, they're also comparable to the 3 Plus. The pre-orders start on March 21st with expected shipping of April 10th. And interestingly enough, the version that I like the best, the 16-bit US one, is the cheapest one, so that's a big thumbs up. The triggers on the Flip are apparently pretty good. The battery life is said to be comparable with the 3 Plus and might be a little bit better, but at the same time it's actively cooled, so it does have to power that fan. And the screen on this one is a friction hinge. It's not a click one like the 3DS. I'm expecting performance of the Flip to be very similar to the 3 Plus considering they're the exact same chipset. But there might be a little bit of room to possibly overclock the Flip a bit more considering it is actively cooled. We'll have to see though. And as for future revisions, I've been told they're going to be avoiding the whole 3 and 3 Plus kerfuffle that they had earlier. So don't expect a Flip Plus to be announced within a couple of months after release of the Flip. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Let me know your thoughts about absolutely any of it in the comments below. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.